So I had this amazing opportunity, you guys, to check out stage 20 of this year's Giro. Long story short, channel sponsor Ketone IQ made this possible because they also sponsor Team Visma Lisa Bike. So I got some amazing behind-the-scenes access. I documented the whole trip, and I want to share with you guys some wild things that I learned about the pros. Let's dive right into it. So after a quick hotel breakfast, we popped over to where the actual athletes were staying, and the first thing I was struck by is how absolutely massive the scope of effort it is to support a World Tour team like this at the Giro. You know, even though Visma's down to just 4 riders, some terrible luck in the first couple of weeks, Crash's illness brought the team down to just 4 riders. Look at this. I mean, it's still outrageous, the level of effort to support a team like this. I counted something like 10 support vehicles, and then based on what I saw, I estimated something like 6 to 8 staff members per athlete. Who knows how many more were working behind the scenes. Plus the gear. Oh my God, guys, the gear. Okay, we're going to spend some time talking specifically about the gear because this is super interesting.
Jeff from NorCal Cycling. Some of you guys might notice him. We are out here at the Team Visma Lisa Bike Hotel, and we have access to their bikes. You want to run us through a little gear check? Just looking at the
there are a
bikes,
couple of surprising things. For one, it's obviously a big climbing day, and they're all on the aero bikes, except for one of the riders, it looks like over there, is on the R5, the rest of the S5. But then the other thing that surprised me, so they're running big gears, they're pros, that makes sense. 5441s. New SRAM looks pretty cool. But crank length was interesting. They were all 175s except for I think one rider was on 170s. So the trend in crit racing that I do is to go lower so you don't do a pedal scrape. But it looks like a lot of the pros are running longer cranks. So that kind of surprised me. This position was kind of wild too. If you see the saddle all the way forward and the long stem, so Eduardo Fini is over the bottom bracket quite a bit. And you have to remember, these guys are riding like 6 hours a day, right? That's a lot of pressure on your hands for 6 hours a day. His position's very optimized. He's very good at core strength and holding that position. But yeah, those are the first things I noticed as they're pulling the bikes out of the van, getting ready for the stage.
Wow, clearly a very jet-lagged Jeff. But one thing I failed to mention was tire size. Most are on 29s, some were on 28s. Super wide rims, of course. They obviously watched my video about matching tire size and rim sizes. It looked like they're on 40, 44 reserves on the climbing bikes, and then 52, 63s on all the other bikes, which are the Aero S5s. So clearly, there's a big emphasis on aerodynamics, even on a super climby stage like today. If you guys forgot what stage 20 was like, well, it's an absolute beast. I'll just post the profile of it right here. So with this much climbing, why on earth would they be running aero equipment? I mean, they have the R5 as an option. Why aren't they all running the R5? Well, I think I can explain what's going on here. The first 85 kilometers of this race, while not flat, they are fast, ripping fast, undulating, curvy roads in northern Italy. And they're going to need every advantage they can get in order to make the breakaway in those first 85 kilometers. Look, they don't have a pure sprinter anymore. Olaf Koy is out, so stage 21, the final ceremonial stage at this year's Giro, will inevitably come down to a field sprint. So this is really the team's last opportunity. And in order to secure the stage win, they first need to join the breakaway, which is going to happen in those first 85 fast kilometers, hence aero equipment. And in talking with the team director, Addy Engels, about this, yes, he confirmed they're going to be very opportunistic, but he's very realistic. He's very matter of fact. He's very Dutch, right? So he knew what the real chances of getting away on a stage like this were. He even cited Tadej Pogačar and his Team UAE directly as the likely victors on the day.
No, I think today there's no doubt that Pogačar will try to show one more time who's the best in this race. I also heard that the Sheikh of UAE was coming, so I think they don't take risks today, and they will control in a hard way, in a strong way, and I think he will try to drop everyone on the last climb of Monte Grappa, which is really a hard climb. They do twice.
So then we headed over and we actually had a moment to speak with the team nutritionist. Really interesting conversation, but it was a very long conversation. So just like I did with Addy and the team's racing strategy, I will paraphrase the team's nutrition strategy as told by this brilliant woman named Franca, who is the team's nutritionist. So each rider gets an individual meal plan, which is kind of like no duh, right? I think that's probably what every team is doing. But here's the thing. it's not just about what the rider's weight, height, metabolism is, but also what were the last few days like? What are the next few days like? What are the goals for today? I mean, if the rider was in a breakaway the last few days, got caught behind a split and in the crosswind, if they're chasing, green jersey points, mountain points in the days ahead, like all of these things factor into the nutrition strategy in order to optimize performance, right? Like it totally makes sense. When you're developing a meal plan for an athlete, the whole idea is to strike a perfect balance to meet the demand, right? So they perform their best. But you also don't want to go over because you don't want the athlete to carry around extra weight or use the extra energy in digestion. I realize this sounds crazy, but the difference between winning and losing at this level of the sport really comes down to attention to detail like this. And so I did ask her a question about macronutrients, specifically carbs, protein, fat, and fiber, and how the balance of those macronutrients might shift over a 3-week Grand Tour like this. And she said, in fact, it does. Later on in a Grand Tour, the athletes will reduce their fat and fiber intake in order to maximize the uptake of the protein replacement requirements and really just open the floodgates for carb intake. And on that note, actually, let's talk about carbs, because you guys know I'm kind of obsessed with them. They're legal dope. And we did have a chance to talk with one of the athletes before the stage. Granted, it was just for a minute or two, but it was cool because it was Edoardo Affini, the Italian on the team. And I had time for one question, and I asked him about carbs. What grams of carbs per hour? Do you know what you're taking in during racing?
Yes.
Can you share?
On a normal day is 90 grams per hour, and when we have a specific day like today where we know it's going to be a really hard race, we go up to 120.
And so after that, guys, we jumped in the Visma convoy, headed towards the start in the northeastern corner of Italy, right near the Austria and Slovenian borders. We checked out the start line, we saw the rider call-ups, we met some fellow Americans, a couple of day drinkers, possibly the cutest Marco Pantani fan I've ever seen. Look, guys, Italians take their cycling seriously. It's like a point of national pride. And even though I've been to the Tour de France, the passion surrounding the Giro d'Italia is like no other. After the official start and a little bit of bad weather, to be honest, we stopped to watch the racers come through, watch the breakaway getting formed. Here's an FDJ and Astana rider coming through about a minute's gap on the field. They'd be joined by about 10 others on these incredibly scenic rolling hills among the Prosecco vineyards here in northern Italy. And from there, we just made our way up to the climb, parked it, watched the race unfold, and enjoyed the wild scene on the steep slopes of the Monte Grappa. So what an experience. Had the time of my life. I want to thank Visma Lease Bike for hosting us. And of course, want to thank Ketone IQ for making this whole thing possible. Thanks for watching, guys. As always, I'll catch you in the next one.